Hi, this is Tom from theweatherguru.com, and this presentation will be about an upcoming change in the weather over the western U.S. We've had a fairly persistent ridge over the western U.S. for the last couple of weeks, which has kept most of us warm and dry. And the exception, though, has been up in the Pacific Northwest, up in BC and northern Washington, where those folks have been the recipient of a rather persistent plume of moisture coming all the way from the Hawaiian Islands. This was an atmospheric river event, also known as a Pineapple Express for the area, and it produced quite a bit of rainfall. The largest rainfall total I could find that was documented was in Quileute, Washington, where they had 8.21 inches over the period of a couple of days. But there was certainly a lot more rain in the mountainous areas. The Cascades and the Olympics probably received maybe twice as much as that. So here's a current satellite loop, and the Pineapple Express we were just talking about has weakened and moved inland in the form of a weak cold front, which lowered snow levels a little bit in the Pacific Northwest. We have another system up here in the Gulf of Alaska that will be moving through over this weekend, lowering snow levels a little bit further and providing a little precipitation. And your eyes were probably drawn to this big storm well out in the Pacific, and that storm will be something that we're looking at here for next week. And then there's even a bigger storm out here in the Bering Sea, and still another one yet further out somewhere in Russia right now that'll be coming along and moving the whole batch of systems along. So the models are all in fairly good agreement now on what's going to happen here over the weekend and into next week. And so I've just chosen a model here, and this is the American model known as the GFS. I got this data from the University of Washington website. This is the forecast for Monday morning, and what we're looking at here is sea level pressure lines, which are in the black, and temperature, which is the colors here, and the blue colors represent below freezing, and the green to yellow colors are above freezing. This is the temperature at 925 millibars, which is about 1,500 feet above the ground, or above sea level. And the low pressure system is now out here around 145 degrees west, and that's the one we're going to be watching. So if I shift ahead to Tuesday morning, you can see the low pressure system has moved inside of 140 now, strengthened a little bit. It's drawing up a little warm air out ahead of it, and we see some pretty good cold air coming down out of the Gulf of Alaska. Move ahead to Wednesday morning. You can see all that cold air now plunging in from the Gulf of Alaska behind the front. Front lies right around in here. What has happened is the low pressure system, the main low pressure system that we were looking at out here, has now moved toward the Oregon coast and weakened. And another part of the system has come down along the British Columbia coast and has now taken over, and the lowest pressures are now over Vancouver Island. Now here's a zoomed in version of the same map we were just looking at. And even though this isn't a particularly strong storm, the lowest pressures are in a good spot to cause gusty winds over the Puget Sound lowlands and along the coastal areas. Strongest winds at this point will probably be along the Oregon coast. And again, this doesn't look like a particularly windy system, but it is enough to be breezy at least. Should also be a fair amount of precipitation occurring at this point as the front is now starting to move inland. And snow levels have risen a little bit, not particularly high, probably 3,000 to 4,000 feet or so, but you can see the cold air coming in behind it, and snow levels will be coming down pretty rapidly later Wednesday. Now, I just wanted to make a mention of how much confidence we can have in this particular forecast. And what we're looking at here is an ensemble forecast, and I've written about that on my blog before. But basically what happens is we run the model many different times using different initial conditions or different configurations and see what comes out. And the degree to which these lines are the same, for example, if they were overlaid on each other, we would have a high degree of confidence in the forecast. And where they're not the same, it increases the uncertainty in the forecast. Now, after you've looked at these for a while, you get a sense of what's good and what isn't. And what we're looking at here on the left is the forecast for 552 decameter 500 millibar heights. And most of these lines are consolidated pretty well. And it gives us pretty decent confidence that there'll be a trough coming in aloft at this time period on Wednesday morning. But if we look at what's happening with surface pressure, or actually 1,000 millibar height lines, what you can see on the right panel is that the lines are really all over the place. So this really isn't a very good forecast of the surface pressure. What this indicates to me is that while the models have a good indication of where the upper level trough is, they're having a hard time placing exactly where the surface low is going to be. And obviously, if they don't know where the surface low is going to be, then that'll affect the wind forecast. So I would say, given these things, we have fairly low confidence in exactly where the low pressure is going to be or where the windiest weather is going to be, but fairly high confidence that there'll be a trough coming in here Wednesday morning. So at the very least, we can feel pretty good about the snow level and precipitation forecasts. So now that we have a good idea what to expect with the pattern overall, we get to what I tongue-in-cheek refer to as the answer key, which are the precipitation forecasts. On the right, we have total rainfall over a 3-day period ending Thursday morning. And on the left, we have snowfall over the same 3-day period ending Thursday morning. And the legends for each one are on the bottom. Should point out that the rainfall amount is in hundredths of an inch, so it's not always easy to tell, but this one here would be 1.28 inches. Snowfall forecasts are in regular inches, so it's pretty easy to understand that legend. And what is shown here probably doesn't come as a surprise to anybody, but the heaviest rain over that 3-day period will be west of the Cascades. And snowfall in the mountains looks pretty good. The Cascades from basically all of the Washington Cascades up into BC should do pretty well. Should get a little bit of snow in the Oregon Cascades as well as the Sierra. Keep in mind, though, that exact precipitation amounts are one of the most difficult things to forecast, so take this with a grain of salt, but at least it gives you an idea of what to expect in terms of precipitation. So I hope you've enjoyed this presentation, and thank you for listening.